You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. I'm Alana.
I'm Kelsey.
Ooh, and it's episode 89.
Yeah.
89. We're almost 90. We're getting old.
Yeah.
Welcome, if it's your first one. We can't believe we've been doing it for 90 episodes, and I'm still awkward
Yeah.
as fuck every intro.
Almost 2 years.
Almost our 2-year anniversary.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
crazy. It
it's good
does
times.
not feel like that long.
It might be
But
a good year. We'll have to wait and see. I was
yeah.
listening to something earlier and it was from like the beginning of 2021. So when they had or beginning of 22? Beginning of 22. So when they had their astrologer to the stars lady on, and she was like, it's going to be a good year for Capricorns. You're gonna plant the seeds and everything you're sowing. You've been planting them. You're going to be reaping them. And I was like, oh, I was like, did Kelsey have a good year reaping? I was like, well, our podcast did pretty good.
Yeah.
Like we made some gains in like listeners and Patreon. And so I was like, all
Yeah, it
right.
was a good year.
We'll have to see what predictions she has for 2023. And we're like
Yeah.
also apparently moving out into a new time. Literally the age of Aquarius or whatever. Like that song. It's the age of Aquarius.
I have no idea.
Yes! Oh my god, they even play it
I
at the
don't.
end of fucking what is that movie? Anchorman? Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway.
maybe.
You might have heard it once or twice. It's stupid. I mean, it's old. It's like from the 70s. But anyway, yeah. Hopefully, like, it's cool if we get to live through a new freaking planetary alignment or whatever that only
Right?
happens like every 200 years. I was like, okay. And she
Oh,
was like,
wow.
yeah. And she was like, I think she said we're coming out of the age of Capricorn, and that like Capricorn was all like, you know, patriarchy and men and rules, and this time is a little bit of a different, vibe to it and stuff, and it'd be a little bit more like organic and grassroots movements of the people and stuff. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, I
something
like
something
that.
different could be good.
Yeah.
That's right, podcasts are popping up everywhere and we're indie as fuck.
Yeah, we're doing good though. It seems like every time I go to add to our YouTube or uh, post an episode to Facebook, it says we have more people following us and more views, and
Oh, that's
uh,
nice.
we're
No, but
doing
I just mean
good.
like
Yeah.
podcasts are so like anybody can do them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's so cool that you can just pick it up and like be a podcaster or put your shit on YouTube and like
Right?
put your crap out there. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Um what are we talking about today?
We are doing some hostage situations. Uh
This is going to
yeah,
be a little
it's
bit different and special in the way that we do it.
Yeah, we've determined we're gonna have to split the episode before we even record it because we know each of our notes are quite long. So, yeah, we're going into it
Yeah.
knowing it's gonna be a part 1 and 2, which I don't think we've planned ahead
Two-parter.
with that happening before.
That's fine. There will be no like cliffhangers other than what my case
No.
will be, because this will be your week, your case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you'll have to come back to find out what Alana's case is next week. Because
You could
this is all
probably
me. I'm doing a
guess.
takeover.
A
Woo!
takeover. I like it when podcasts do that. I've been thinking we need to get on someone else's podcast, like where they do and you go on theirs, you tell them a story, and they come on yours, they tell you a story kind of thing. That way you both
Yeah.
can cross promote it. So anyone
Yeah.
listening who has a podcast, and wants to do that with us, at me, CASTLESCRYPTIDS@gmail.com. Get at us on our
Yeah.
Instagram. I don't plug our Instagram enough.
Yeah. That'd be
Castles and
pretty
Cryptids
cool.
everywhere. Yeah, because that's how I find different podcasts too. It's just, I'm like, oh, well, you sounded cool when you were on this show. And that's like
Yeah.
the only way I'll give them a chance. They're on my favorite show. I'm like, I guess I'll listen to you for an episode. I know, I'm so picky. I'm like, I hope
Yeah, I was
most
gonna
listeners
say
aren't as picky as me.
okay.
Shutting you off. You're annoying.
Oh, that'd be
But
brutal.
it's hard, man. Yeah. You hear something and you're like, I don't know if I want to listen to this. And so you're just like, skip, because you have the
Yeah,
power.
I do that a lot.
Right? We have to
Because there's
impress them
just
in the
so
first
many,
30 seconds.
yeah, there's so many choices for everything, like movies to watch, shows to
Yeah,
watch. If you don't grab somebody's attention right away, you're
I
done,
know.
kind of thing.
I'm like, I didn't skip this promo fast enough. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I'll be like, oh my God, what does your promo sound like? Like our own? I'm like, it's fine. Give the people a chance.
Yeah.
That's all right. Our weirdos will find us. Our creepy, cryptic people.
Yeah.
They're the kind of people that are in it for the long haul. And we see you and we love you.
Yes. All of you.
Especially every time you consistently download the episode, even if I publish it a few hours late by mistake.
Right?
Things happen. I've
Yeah.
been like literally working on these notes, my notes all week, and I'm not even like done typing. Like I'll have to type them still tomorrow to
Yeah.
finish. So it's crazy.
I I was kind of like frantically typing mine, and then I finished that, and then I was kind of doing nothing, and then I was like, "Oh shit, I'm supposed to be editing the
Oh
twins episode," and was like, "Oh my
yeah.
god!" And when I realized that, it was Wednesday night, and it was like 8 o'clock,
Oh
and it was like, and I work, and then the next day I worked from 1 to 9:30. So it was like I closed. So I had that evening I did half
oh
of it, and then the next morning before work I did the other half because that's all I had before Friday posting. And I didn't
because
realize it until 8 p.m. on
yeah.
Wednesday. I was like,
Well, because
fuck.
you had said you thought you might have time on Tuesday, so I like it was Tuesday, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I should bring my computer to work with me, so I make sure to like upload it in time in case she's doing it during the day.
No, I forgot. I got so my parents took me to
That's funny.
IKEA and I bought some stuff. So then it was like
Yeah.
I had to I bought a little greenhouse for my plants that I called a plant
Oh,
prison.
that's right. That was
Uh
cute.
yeah,
It looked
so
good.
I had to build that, so that took me like an hour, and then
Yeah, it's like a
I
little
had to
glass mini greenhouse almost.
yeah, it's cute. I had to replant a couple of the plants into smaller containers so that they'd fit.
Yeah,
And yeah, so that took a while. And
cute.
then, yeah, I was just kind of like, ooh, I'm going to sit down for the first time in like 5 hours. And it was like, it's 8 o'clock. And then I was like, oh, I'll
Oh,
see if the thing's posted. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm way late editing that. And then
that's
I was
funny.
freaking out. Yeah,
It happens. We
but
uh
I did it.
yeah, we strive for perfection and fall far short.
Yeah, I did a
But
lot
like
less editing.
it's
I think
fine.
I did just really loud stuff. Um, Yeah, not as thorough of a job of editing as I normally do.
I
But
mean, we're not perfect. We say things wrong,
yeah.
and it's funny sometimes. And I leave that stuff in because I'm like, ah,
Oh
I
yeah. But no,
I
normally
said,
I'll take out all the
oh,
sniffs and all the throat clears and all of the weirdness and like so meticulously,
oh,
and I
it's
was like,
okay.
nope.
Clear your throat. It's not as bad because you're not sick anymore. So
Yeah,
we're not
that
too
was pretty brutal.
bad. Just in the last one. Wait, what was the last one I edited? Oh, I guess the Patreon.
The Patreon, yeah.
Patreon plug. Yes, when we did January-ish crimes for some of us.
Sorry.
January adjacent crimes. Mine had a crime in it that happened in January. It had a lot going on too. And so
Yeah.
at one point I was supposed to say he got dragged into the bathroom, the body or whatever. And I said fragged, and I was like, oh yeah. That was funny because then we were like, I was like, it didn't spell check it because it is a word.
Right?
So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I like to leave that stuff in. So organic.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, join
You
our
know we're
Patreon. And then you can
yeah.
access all our bonus episodes. They're just as fun.
And we have mini sodes that are videos, and we were just talking about
Yeah.
what we're going to do for the next ones of those, which
Mm-hmm.
would include a long-awaited Ask Me Anything. So please send us all your
Yes,
burning questions.
please.
CASTLESCRYPTIDS@gmail.com.
Any question. Ask
Instagram.
us our
The
favorite movie, our
website.
favorite color. We
Can you
don't
ask? Can
care.
you message on the website? I can't remember. Or
I think it I think it just links to
you can ask us on our
what did
Patreon
I
on
put
there, and
in
then you
there?
can message us on Patreon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it just has a link to our email or something. It just like if you click the box, I
Okay.
think it brings up a pre-filled email with our email
Try it
address
out.
in it, and then I can't remember. I set it up too
Tell
long
us.
ago. Yeah.
Tell us how it goes. Yes. Ask us what our favorite cryptid is.
Mhm.
Anything. Would we rather see a cryptid or a UFO? Oh, that's a hard one.
I
It's
don't know, they'd
tougher.
both be creepy, but in different ways.
Right?
Yeah.
And scary. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd be horrified either way. I don't like it.
You might not get probed.
It doesn't matter.
Maybe you'd get one of those sad looking cryptids that we talked about that are just like mopey.
Uh,
You like go
if
cheer it
it's
up, you give it some chocolate.
if it's not the snallygaster, then it's moonshine or the axe handle hound being the cute little doggy.
Snallygaster. I always forget
Yeah.
he's a drunk.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We blew him up in a vat of moonshine or something. Some
Plus he
alcohol.
had like wings and like snake
Yeah.
parts or something that just, it's quite an
Yeah.
image.
He flew
I have a
around.
dragon. Yeah, I have a dragon that looks kind of like that in here. Which I
Cute.
gotta declutter because my witch books say I need a little bit of a altar so I can put little stuff like
Mm,
you can do like shells for earth and like a candle for fire, or I can do a little
that's
glass of
cool.
water for water. I'm gonna and then I get that little cup you gave me, so now I have a little
Yeah.
chalice and a cup for rituals and spelly
Perfect. It's so
things.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, we better get into this episode, my takeover.
I'm
It's
curious. You predicted a long one, so yeah, I want to see
yeah.
what's
I
going
went
on
back and
here.
forth about doing this one. Just I know it's been covered by a few different podcasts because it's pretty
Mm.
famous where it took place. And there's a
Ooh.
lot of like controversy, I guess, surrounding it on how it was handled. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's quite
I wonder
wild.
if I know it. Okay, okay.
It didn't come up on any of the main ones that I know you listen to, having covered it. So,
I listen to so many now. I
Okay.
just I was listening to Drinking the Kool-Aid and they covered Cherry Papini, which I was like, oh, I've covered this. And then it's kind of like watching a movie when you read the book. You're like, I wonder if they'll talk about this. I wonder if they'll
Yeah.
talk about the same stuff. And then sometimes they'll talk about details you didn't hear. Like they said that there was
Yeah.
music playing on her phone when she went when she abducted herself when he found the
Hmm.
phone, and they said that the music that was playing was their wedding song, and it was still playing on her phone from where she like dropped it on the jog, and I was like, oh, I didn't hear that. So that was weird.
Weird. Unless it's like
Yeah.
playing on repeat, that'd be a really long song.
Well, yeah, that's true. I wasn't given any
Yeah.
further details, and I don't know what source they got it from, so I would
Yeah.
take that with a
Yeah,
grain of
sometimes
salt, I guess.
that's happened a couple times where, yeah, I'll be listening to something, and that's why I try not to cover cases I've heard about somewhere else, because sometimes I'm looking for something and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know where they got that information from, because like I can't find that anywhere. And then you're like, my only source is
Yeah.
this for like
Yeah,
this
you gotta
one
be
part.
careful because it can give you like a kind of a preconceived notion
Yeah.
before you even go in. So yeah, I'll maybe do something if I've like heard it on a few, or it was a while ago, or like
Yeah.
I listened to it maybe after I've done my research, and I don't know, I'll do different
Mm-hmm.
things because I'm like, yeah, I don't want to like get confused or anything.
Yeah. So the case I'm covering is the Gladbeck hostage crisis, as it's,
Gladbeck? Okay.
yeah, it's
Doesn't ring a
commonly called a
bell.
hostage crisis. It's quite wild. I heard about it from a Netflix documentary that they released, and
Oh, okay.
it's very cool in how they did it because they have no interviews. They didn't interview anybody for it.
Oh.
All they did was compile basically the timeline from start to finish of what happened. And it's just the news reporting, because news reporting is a huge thing in this story, which we'll get into. So it's just all the raw
Okay.
footage of like all the media that was following them around for the whole crisis. Uh, and they
Oh.
don't do any interviews. They don't have any follow up other than like the last couple minutes. They have some blurbs on the screen being like, so and so, like this happened to them, this happened to this person, the end. And then it ends. Like, and it's
Damn.
all like, it's an hour and a half long. And I liked it because one of the things said, uh, yeah, it was released in 2022, last year, on Netflix, documenting the events through the entire ordeal using raw footage without commentary and features no later interviews with survivors or witnesses. It's just like raw camera footage and then news reports. And it's
Oh,
very well
wow.
done. Like, it's really cool how they did it.
Kind of makes you draw
Yeah,
your
because we'll get
own
into it.
conclusions, I guess.
Yeah, because we'll get into it. Because the media is the part about the controversy of it, is why the media became so heavily involved in this like crisis, um which I think made
Great.
it
That's
worse.
always good. No.
Yeah. So there are also pictures on the drive. Yay.
Oh,
um
she's such a picture bitch. She's always got the
oh yeah,
pictures.
the curated pictures. uh
I have fun sometimes picking pictures for social media and stuff.
so what began as a, not really a simple bank robbery, I guess, but a bank robbery and hostage taking in
You
August
did a
of
bank
19.
robbery?
Uh, it's not that simple, but yeah. Uh,
No, no, that's interesting. Interesting to note.
yeah, so it started off as a bank robbery, and hostage taking in August of 1988, and pretty quickly expanded into a tragic ordeal for everybody involved. It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
So, early in the
Hmm.
morning on August 16th, 1988, two known criminals at the time that they broke in or forced their way into the bank, they didn't know their identities, but I just put it here. They are known criminals, Hans-Jürgen Rosner and Dieter Degowski, and they were armed with
Oh.
guns, and they forced their way into a branch of the Deutsch Bank in Gladbeck just before it opened. So there was only employees in there, no like customers.
Oh, is this in Germany?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
In, yeah.
What?
I
Sorry,
said
I'm
yeah,
listening.
in Germany.
That's so crazy. Do you sidebar? Do you know I told you what I was covering or not really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Parallelograms. Okay.
Right? I had already picked this and like finished
That's
my
funny.
notes. But
I don't yeah, I still am not sure that I've heard of it. It's not really sounding familiar yet.
I I don't think you have because I had never heard of it before I watched the Netflix thing and I was like shocked. I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's
Love a
crazy.
good Netflix doc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like we were saying, I don't know if it was on air, but yeah, I'll watch Netflix documentaries and
Yeah.
Pat will put them
This one's
on and it's
really
probably,
good. Like,
yeah. Like I bet you it's big in Germany. Like I'm sure they know it there.
yes, it's
I'm sure it's
huge.
very
Yeah.
famous.
So, pretty quickly after they forced their way into the bank at 8:04 a.m., an emergency call was made by I think a witness outside the bank, not by one of the employees inside.
Oh,
And police soon
okay.
arrived at the scene, so they're outside. And inside, the two men that broke in took two of the bank employees hostages as hostage inside the bank and started demanding a car and also wanted ransom money in order to release the employees from their
Okay.
like captivity. And they started
They have
firing
a
their
plan.
guns into the air several times. So
No.
during this, police are outside and they aren't really making attempts to get in. And they aren't, they're sort of negotiating, but not really. They're taking their sweet time with it. And it just so happens that a local radio station somehow hears about it and they call the bank. I assume
Oh,
they call the
good.
bank. And they're able to talk to the people that are holding the employees hostage. And they conduct an on air interview with the men while the crisis is still happening. And this is the first like
Oh.
contact with the media. And it just snowballs from here.
Oh
So
boy. The
yeah.
cops must have been pissed at that radio station.
Yeah. So there it just said the man who answered the call informed them that they wanted to take hostages along with them when they intended to leave the bank and that they intended to keep them with them for some time, kind of as leverage.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
safety assurances for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Human
finally
shields.
after right? Finally after negotiating for most of the day, like I think it's at this point almost 10 hours they've been like in the bank negotiating with them.
Okay.
They got their requested money, which was 300,000 Deutschmark, and they left the police left this in front of the bank's door, the front door. And an employee of the bank was then seen taking it inside, and this bank employee actually had a rope tied around his waist or his chest in order to prevent him from being able to just run away once he went outside. It's like he was tied with a rope that they held the other end to make sure he came back.
Like when that guy goes out in the mist, but he gets eaten at the end of the rope.
Yeah. And then it just drops. Yeah.
You're like, oh shit. Oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
this is crazy.
So, yeah, so they get their money now that they're still inside. And the abductors also requested a getaway vehicle. And they had
Smart.
asked for a BMW, but
I love
instead of
that they're
getting a
like requesting
BMW,
the make. It's like, sorry,
yeah,
it's like they're like at the car rental and they're like, but
right.
I want this one. You get what you get. You don't get upset.
So instead of the BMW that they had asked for, they got a white Audi 100.
Well,
And
that's nice.
yeah, Audis are good.
I mean, German
So
cars, they're good, right?
they got
Yeah.
this a few hours later after they had gotten their money. So this happened at about 12 hours after the start
Okay.
of the ordeal, and the abductors, along with the two bank employee hostages, then got into the vehicle and left the scene or the bank at 9:45 p.m. So a little over 12 hours later. So now it's the two men and the two
Oh,
bank employees have left the bank in the white Audi.
wow, they let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Holy
So
shit.
outside, as the vehicle drove away, the media was like losing their mind because they had already talked to the guy. They had interviewed him on air. People thought it was so cool because he's just saying whatever he wants on air. And the police let them get away and gave them money and gave them a car. So
Wow.
as they're
They're
driving
loving it.
away, yeah, as they're driving away, the media is buzzing. They're filming live as the car slowly drives away from the area with one of the perpetrators. I'm assuming it's Rosner. He's like the main guy. He's pointing his gun out the windshield of the vehicle, um, which I don't think there's a picture of. No.
There's definitely a few pictures of him, people in a car with guns
Yeah.
and media around. You're like,
Try
whoa.
not to look too far ahead, though.
Okay.
Because it's, yeah. So he's pointing his gun out the windshield of the vehicle. The two hostages are, I think, probably in the other guy's in the back, so maybe one of them's in the passenger, one of them's in the back with the other guy. And
Okay.
this begins the long convoy of cars that start trailing behind them, comprised of some police cars that are following quite a ways back, and then just a shitstorm of media vehicles that are all just following them to the next location.
It's a
Because
crime parade.
yeah, basically. It's just a convoy of vehicles.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Uh,
Convoy. No.
yeah.
That song.
So at some point after they drive away from the bank, it's not really known. We lose track of them, the media does, and police for like most of that night and through till partway through the next day. At some
Oh.
point, they drove and had picked up Rosner's girlfriend, Marion Lobbeck, Lobbeck, and she was picked
Take
up
your pick. No.
nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's
Okay.
picked up
So
nearby. So now there's the two guys and Rosner's girlfriend, and then the two hostage bank employees
that's
in the
weird.
vehicle.
Okay.
So,
Hey, honey.
Rod,
We'll go for a
right?
ride. I'm just like, okay.
So, I wanted to go through here about who the perpetrators are. So we kind of get some background before we keep going on their escapades and adventures.
They're
So
creative.
yeah, Hans-Jürgen Rosner, the main guy, was born on February 17th, 1957 in Gladbeck. He grew up with three older sisters and one younger sister.
He
His
has
father,
sisters galore.
yeah, four sisters. His father, or their father, was a World War II veteran. and was described as often being violent and physically abusive towards Rosner.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, not a good home life. Around age 8 to 9, an acquaintance of his father's reportedly showed him or like taught him how to shoplift. And
Oh.
yeah, he was first convicted of theft at the age of 14. So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
And like, really? Usually get a slap on the wrist, but convicted
Yeah.
doesn't sound good. He must have taken something big.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There wasn't any details about that I could find, but by his late 20s, he had committed many robberies and burglaries and had spent 11 years in prison by his late 20s. It's like half his life in
Repeat
prison.
offender.
That's why, like, as soon as the police figure out who these guys are, they're like, yeah, we know them. Like, yeah.
Mm.
In August 1986, he disappeared while he was still on parole, and he was found, he was hiding at his sister's place. And a year later is when he moved in with his girlfriend Marion Boblik.
Why was he
And
like what is he hiding from if he's on
I don't know.
parole?
Like, as far as I can tell, he's still in the area. He didn't go on the run. So I don't know why he was hiding from like his parole officer or whoever.
He's laying
But
low. I don't
yeah,
know.
for any reason, like they didn't know where he was. But at that time, he was at his
Oh,
sister's and then later at Marion's. And
okay.
she had a teenage daughter named Nicole, and they all lived in an apartment. There's like no other information about the daughter or anything, but I feel bad for her because it's kind of like, yeah, your mom got like roped into this shit too.
Oh,
Um,
no.
So, police received a tip from his ex wife, Ursula. Show Ursula.
Ursula
Uh,
Phoebe? No.
yeah. About where he was at Marion's, and police planned to arrest him on August 16th, 1988. And that was actually the day of the bank robbery. Coincidentally enough, they were going to arrest him that day. I don't know if he knew
Okay.
that, but that's kind of weird.
I was gonna
That,
say I
like,
remembered that was the year and then the month,
yeah,
but
the exact day. And he's like, I'm gonna rob a bank. Uh,
ugh, yeah. He's like, I just want back in jail. Sadly.
ah.
Like those
So,
Shawshank people. They don't know how
these
to live
people,
on the outside.
no, these guys don't want back in jail. That's like the only thing they don't want. They don't care about anything. They just aren't going to jail.
Well, they're
And
going
yeah.
about it all the wrong way.
Right? Yeah.
Mm.
The next guy, Dieter Degowski, he was born on June 4th, 1956, in Gladbeck. He was the fifth child in a family of six, so second
Wow.
youngest. Yeah. And he also experienced domestic abuse as a child that led him to develop a violent and antisocial character. And he and Rosner had actually met in a primary school for special education. And he had
Aw.
also, yeah, it said
That's
for
kind of
special
sad.
education, but it's not like they're special needs, as far as I could tell. So,
Maybe some sort
yeah,
of unseen learning disability.
maybe.
Hmm. I'm just like,
He too,
they're so troubled from the get-go.
yeah,
That
uh,
sucks.
he had also committed a bunch of minor crimes like shoplifting. He also was arrested at the age of 15 for stealing sedative drugs. Uh, don't know if he used them himself because he did have or later he stole cars and developed an alcohol and Vesperax addiction. I don't know what Vesperax is.
Sounds like a pill.
Yeah, so maybe those sedative drugs were for himself. I don't know. And yeah, so after they had met originally in primary school, they had, I think, drifted apart because it said the two once again crossed paths in 1983 while actually sharing a cell in prison for 8 months. And
Oh, right. This is the second guy. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
5 years later and shortly before the bank robbery in August of 1988, Degowski agreed to help with the bank robbery if they used the money that they got from the robbery towards establishing a car recycling business near Munster.
He wants to
So,
go legit.
yeah, it sounds like it. I don't know
Hmm.
how much would that be, like an auto like salvage yard, a car
I would
recycling
think
business.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some information about Marion Woblik, Woblik, and she was born on April 14th, 1954 in Bremen. She was the second of 8 children, so even bigger family.
Boys. That's a lot of
Yeah,
kids.
it's the 50s. Everybody's got 100
I
kids apparently in this story. Uh,
Yeah, my dad has four siblings,
hmm.
but I've heard I know of families that have huge amounts.
Yeah, at my first
Wasn't
job I worked, one of the ladies that worked there, she was one of 13 kids. I was like, what the
Well, how
fuck?
many did frickin' Mary from Newfoundland have in her family that we
Like
worked with?
7?
Yeah, she was like, I
Yeah.
don't talk to any of my sisters.
Yeah,
That's
just
not a
the
Newfoundland
one.
accent, but you know.
Yeah. um I assume because there was so many kids, but the family often faced financial problems. A
Oh,
lot of kids, yeah.
don't have more than you can afford.
Hmm.
Sucks.
And in her teens, she became pregnant with her first child, and she did end up marrying the father of the child. After their
Okay.
child's birth, it was a daughter named uh, Lila. Yeah, Lila.
Aw,
She was
cute.
actually mentally disabled, and Marion ended up catching her husband cheating on her with her best friend. So she ended up applying for a divorce in 1975 while pregnant with her second child, Nicole. I don't know if that
Damn.
was like also his child too, but yeah, so they got divorced. And I don't have any other
Yeah, he
information
was
about
cheating on
Lila.
her though, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, he did her
Hmm.
dirty.
Yeah.
And she's
I
up
don't
there
know what
having his
happened with
kid,
Lila.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and a year later, she got married to her second husband, and together the two of them moved to Gladbeck and opened a bar. Uh,
Nice.
at the bar, she met Ralph Loblick and divorced her second husband in order to marry Ralph. So that's how her last name is Loblick. Because that's her
Oh, okay.
third husband. I put to many Ralph. In order to many Ralph, marry.
Oh. This
I
is the
was
one
like,
she's been waiting for all along. This is the
oh.
right one, hopefully.
No, because in 1980 she gave birth to a son named
Oh.
Pierre, and her and Ralph worked as taxi drivers for a while. Um,
Okay.
and later she became unhappy in this marriage as well and left her husband to start a relationship with Hans Jürgen Rosner. So
Oh
that's how they
no.
got
And he's
together.
one of the
Yeah.
guys in this story.
Yeah. So not great.
Ugh. Well, she knows how to pick them.
Yeah. So that's our perpetrators, the three of them. So they're in the vehicle with the two bank employees. Um and they so August 17th, 1988, police had called off any of the manhunts to look for them, and because they had actually lost track of them, but unofficially they said they were keeping
Wow.
track of the car's movements. Um And after briefly losing them overnight from the 16th, they were located again on the 17th. And when they were located, it was determined that they had somehow, at some point, successfully changed getaway vehicles. So they were driving a different car.
And they still had the hostages?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What was
Yeah.
the plan? What was the plan, guys? What was the plan? Where are the
Oh, you'll find out.
barricades?
There's
Like,
so more. There's so much
ugh.
more. After picking up Marion and driving with the 2 hostages, the 5 of them drove to Bremen, about 230 kilometers away, where after failing to get another vehicle to drive, the abductors stopped and hijacked a public transportation bus and basically now took hostage an additional 32 passengers of the bus at 7 p.m. on August 17th.
That's the
So
worst getaway vehicle ever.
now they have 34
Have they ever been on a bus? It's terrible. It takes so long.
yeah.
It stops at everything. It's so unwieldy. Nobody
No,
will let you out.
they just leave the bus parked there. They wanted all the passengers to be hostages so they'd have more leverage.
But how are they
And
putting them in their vehicle? What vehicle are they driving?
I think they just probably waited at the bus stop and then forced their way on with guns, and then the bus just sat there from then on. Like,
So now they're not even fleeing.
no, they're not fleeing at all. Yeah, so they're
Went from
parked at this
speed
bus
to slow to stop. Like
right?
the movie Speed, but not.
Yeah. So during this time, the media once they know their location, swarms the bus. They begin conducting all these interviews, now face to face, live on television with the hostages and the abductors without any police presence around. There's police nowhere to be seen. And the men
That's
seem
not
quite
good.
relaxed. They're walking around, they're smoking, they have their guns in their hands. The people on the bus are just sitting there. Yeah, it's quite relaxed, but there's, I'd say, upwards of 20 to 50 reporters. Like, from this point on in the story, just imagine a small crowd is always watching everything they do.
Okay. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because then
Right?
there's more reporters
Mm-hmm.
than
That's why there's so much
criminals and
controversy with this.
hostages.
Because the, police they try and do some stuff and it always backfires, and then the media's there, and at some point the media starts being really shitty and making stuff a lot worse. So
They could have overwhelmed the fucking criminals if there's that many of them.
100%.
They could have
Yeah.
helped. They're not doing anything either. That's really frustrating.
Yeah, so a bunch of the first section of pictures is like all about the bus. You can go up to like probably the number 4, I think, is the last picture. Stop at.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're quite relaxed, stating, or Rosner is like doing most of the interviews. He states that they don't plan to hurt anyone as long as the police continue to meet their demands. Like they had previously given them money in the car and let them drive away. But chillingly, Rosner also says that all 3 of the abductors no longer have any hope or aspirations in their lives, and they don't mind being shot and killed or dying. Like, they just basically don't care anymore.
Okay. That's not
one
good.
source even said that he said during one of the interviews that he had often thought of joining a terrorist organization. I didn't read that anywhere else except the one source.
They do look weirdly relaxed in some of the pictures.
He continues on saying he promises that they would definitely kill all the hostages and more people if they're attacked right away. So even though they don't mind dying right away, they're going to take everybody out with them if the police try and kill them.
They don't mind dying, and they
Um,
don't mind if you die,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Nice.
Uh, the media, there's so many pictures, and video. That's why the video is like such a big thing, that documentary, because all this raw footage of the media basically just driving and following these people around for days. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and that's how you
Um,
get the footage too, from all
yeah.
the media. Yeah.
So the
Wow.
media were allowed by the men and Marion to board the bus, take pictures with the hostages, take pictures of them standing there, while Rosner spoke to the
Jeez.
press and the public outside of the bus, pistol in his hand. During the interviews with some of the hostages, uh, such as Silky, she'll be like big in this story. Many of them had a pistol pressed up against their throats while being interviewed. They still are pretty calm, the hostages, even if they have the gun like to their throats. But the reporters are asking them like,
Jeez.
"How are you? Are you okay?" And they have like a gun to their throat. Like, fuck off. Um,
What? Yeah. That's gonna make it
yeah,
harder to talk, literally, physically,
right. At this
and
point,
emotionally, obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, millions of television viewers across Germany had now begun watching, like they were enthralled. It's now over 24 hours since it started. And one of the most unforgettable moments is when it said garishly tattooed Rosner. He's got a bunch of tattoos. Had
Yeah.
told the
He's got like a
gathered
sleeve
media,
going.
yeah,
Almost.
like not a concentrated sleeve, like just tattoos all over his arm, but like not
Yeah.
any cohesive theme.
Oh yeah, it doesn't look good. You're right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, so one of the most unforgettable moments is when Rosner told the gathered media he was prepared to end it all and put the barrel of his gun in his mouth, like, and pretended to pull the trigger, like, on camera.
Okay. What does he think
Um,
this is gonna get him? It's like,
yeah.
ugh.
At this point, because the police weren't around, or if they were, they weren't in contact with the group had some new demands for the police, which they were only able to get out to the police by reporting it to the media around them. So they gave the media basically their demands and hoped that the
Wow.
police would find out about it. They
Jeez.
now wanted to exchange hostages and planned to let one of the bank employees go in exchange for a policeman. Like, so they wanted to swap. And they wanted the policeman to carry his ID and only be in his underwear, probably to see if he's like wired, has anything on him, weapon, whatever. And they also wanted a new getaway car because they're stuck with the bus now.
Are they just gonna keep
So,
calling the cops like they're freaking AAA? Like,
yeah.
oh, now I need a tow. Now I need gas money and Taco Bell. Jeez.
So, a while later, I think it could be like a few hours, hoping that it would help get their demands met, the abductors released 5 of the bus hostages. Um, I'd
Okay.
say is kind of like a sign of good faith. However, the police really dropped the ball because they failed to contact or set up any line of communication with Rosner or like the other two, or to attempt to meet any of their demands in time. And as a result, the remaining hostages, along with the 3 abductors, um, so yeah, almost 30 people are driven to out onto the Autobahn. So now they're driving the bus away from this scene out onto the Autobahn service area in Grungergees, Grungersee.
Ooh.
Uh,
Grunger, guys? No, I don't know.
I have no idea. And followed by their ever-growing like convoy of media and police cars, even though the police like didn't attempt to communicate them when they were sitting there for hours.
And they just like took the hostages and were kind of like, okay, bye.
Yeah, we
Like,
gained 30. Fuck you. Like, yeah. So now they're driving on the Autobahn. They stop at like a service station. during this stop, which is picture 5, you can go to. This is Silky. She's so pretty, and watching the videos of her is really heartbreaking because she was the most interviewed hostage out of any of them in the whole ordeal, and she's only 18.
Oh, probably because she's pretty.
Yeah. And yeah, so during this stop is when we first have contact with Degowski. He comes off the bus with the young woman, Silky, while holding a gun to her throat. He answers a few questions from some of the reporters for the first time, because I think Rosner was kind of doing it all before. And during this stop, Marion actually had to go to the bathroom. So during this, 2 police officers and the police thought it would be a good idea if they arrested her while she was in the bathroom at the service area.
This is one of the hostages?
No, that's the Marion, the Rosner's girlfriend.
Oh, with the hard to pronounce last name. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so they arrest her, they take her into custody. As a result, Degowski and Rosner now threaten to kill all the hostages, or threaten to kill hostages one by one until they release her from custody.
They're like, now we have a hostage.
Yeah,
Oh.
basically. And they end up waiting a while. Nothing happens. They don't release Marion. So Rosner and Degowski release the 2 original bank employees in good faith. But their impatience starts to, like, they're running out of patience. Like, they're just angry about it. But they release the 2 original bank employees. So after, like, almost 48 hours, they're safe.
Jeez.
Um,
I don't. It makes me think because Pat will sometimes say, "My patients are running," or what does he say? "My patients are running out," and I'm like your patients, like you're a doctor or something. Like he says it wrong in some way, and it's just kind of cute. I can't remember if that's how he says it, but I'm always just like, "You're what?" Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so at least they're free.
Yeah, they're gone. So time keeps going on. They're still sitting at this rest stop. After the demand is not met, and this is when shit starts to get real. 15-year-old Italian boy named Emanuele De Giorgi ends up being shot in the head by Degowski. It said that he was protecting his little sister from the abductors. Their picture is picture 6. Super sad.
Oh
He was
my
shot in the head.
God.
He ended up living for a few hours, but later I think died in hospital. During this picture, the media is all around them, and Degowski literally just got up, like probably back on the bus after holding the gun to Silky's head, and people interviewing her. There's media all around them. They're doing fuck all, and then this 15-year-old boy gets shot in the head and like basically thrown off the bus, and the media like drag his body away and are like trying to get him help, but they're still standing there watching them doing nothing. Like,
that is just chaos.
Yeah. So the worst part was that Marion was actually about to be released by the police. They were about to exchange hostages when this occurred, but they ended up arriving too late. Some sources say because there was a broken handcuff key and poor police communication. So that's like why she wasn't released in time and Emmanuel was killed.
What?
Yeah.
That's so...
But it was like, you guys instigated them because you arrested her. Like, and they had 30 hostages. Like,
it seems like
yeah.
the cops and the criminals are kind of flailing about wildly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're just doing kind of whatever at this point. An ambulance arrived 20 minutes later for Emmanuel, but the teenager died 2 hours later in hospital. The police at that point no longer had a choice but to release Marion, which they did. They allowed her to rejoin the group, and then the group reboarded the bus, and the bus then departed towards Oldenzaal in the Netherlands, followed once again by the huge convoy of media and police.
Okay.
That's why I'm like watching this. I'm
Gee.
like, this is insanity. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, you don't know what the hell's gonna happen next.
yeah. During the police pursuit of the bus, like during this time, they're basically just following it. A police car actually ended up colliding with a truck, and there was one police officer that was killed and another that was injured, like in this vehicle accident.
What?
Yeah, so they were like following behind in the convoy, and there was a car accident.
Well, that just seems like it's gonna be bound to happen with all that traffic
Yeah.
clogging up.
And if you
This is
watch the
just so
documentary, it's
unnecessary.
insane. Anytime they start to pull away, all the reporters are like dodging in and out of vehicles, like in traffic, trying to get to their cars to like quickly follow them. So like all the reporters are almost getting hit every time they pull away and start driving again, and people are honking, they're yelling at each other, like it's pure chaos. So
Jeez.
it brings us to day 3, August 18th. A few hours later at 2:30 a.m., the bus crossed the border into the Netherlands. A few hours later at 5:15 a.m., 2 women and 3 children were released after they had come to like a stop, and Dutch police refused to negotiate with them at all for any of their demands as long as there were children being held hostage. So I think they released the 3 remaining children on board and 2 additional women, so that Dutch police would negotiate with them. About an hour later at 6:30, Rosner and Degowski ended up getting their requested BMW 735i. They like had a specific make and model they wanted, that they had asked for, so they got it. Unknown to them, it had been prepared by police so that they could remotely stop the engine. So they had a plan when
Finally.
they gave them this vehicle.
It's about
And
bloody time. Like,
right,
you can't think of something? I don't know. I'm not saying I have the answer. It's just like,
right. It's
oh,
brutal.
they
It's a
just gonna
little
keep
brutal.
asking you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to have some sort of plan or
Yeah.
be able to outsmart
So
them.
at this point, now that they got their BMW, the 3 of them get in and they take 2 hostages. They leave behind everybody else on the bus.
They're just
And the
back to
2
square one.
basically
Just two
just
different
2 different
hostages.
people. Yeah. So
35 more traumatized people.
yeah.
Ugh.
So while attempting to escape, Marion and the bus driver at some point are injured in this whole thing.
Oh.
Um, I don't really know this or remember. I didn't rewatch the documentary, and nothing talked about any more details, so I'm not sure how they were injured or what.
Okay.
It wasn't serious because you see her later on and she looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the police, as we kind of said, you said they're finally doing something. They can remote stop the engine on them. The police are actually unable to ever do this because some idiot leaves the remote control behind. So like they don't have it when they like follow the vehicle after it leaves. So they like go through all this effort and then they don't even take the controller with them. So they drop the ball.
Well, who was it? Did they leave it back at the office? Somebody at the office just fucking
Oh,
press it.
right?
Ugh.
Uh, so the 2 hostages that they take with them is 18-year-old Silky Bischoff. You know, I said you'll
Oh,
be
of
hearing more
course.
from her, and her friend Inez Voitel. Silky Bischoff was a trainee in a lawyer's office in Bremen, and she finished work actually early the day before that day, an hour earlier than her friend Inez, and had waited for her so that they could take the bus home together. So like she
Damn.
wasn't even supposed to be on the bus.
Of course.
Yeah. It always happens, right?
Oh yeah.
At 10:30 a.m., the group stopped in their car. This is where it gets like even wilder. They stop in their car in a pedestrian area in Cologne after trying to drive through. So they drove through, they didn't know the city, first of all. They were driving through kind of like a shopping area that has like a pedestrian, kind of like White Ave. Like they have little barricades so that it used to be a road, but they have these metal posts that they've put
Oh
into
yeah.
the road so that you can't drive there because now it's a pedestrian walking road so they can go from like
Yeah.
one side of the street to the other. Well, somehow they had turned into this and were like driving through it. They didn't hurt anybody, but they encountered one of those metal, like the poles as a barricade, so they couldn't continue driving their car. And at this point, they've now been bombarded by the media swarming them, and a whole bunch of pedestrians and shoppers are crowding the vehicles. They're stuck in the middle of this pedestrian walkway with like 70 people around them, like
Wow.
leaning against the car right in their face. It's crazy. Um, yeah.
Just put themselves into a corner.
Mm-hmm. Inside the vehicle, exhausted, because it's now day 3. Like we're talking, what, 40, over 48 hours they've been at
I would
this.
be
No sleep.
hungry.
Yeah. They're close to the breaking point, let's say. In the driver's seat, Rosner, gun in hand. Beside him, Marion is in the passenger seat. In the back seat, and as is what in the on the passenger backside, and Silky's behind Rosner, behind the driver's seat, and Dieter Degowski is sitting in between them, holding a gun. And
Mm-hmm.
as I said, the car is quickly surrounded by media as well as shoppers, which is picture 8, or you can do 7, 8,
Oh yeah,
9, 10,
oh
11. It's like this is all in the parking thing. Like it's
yeah, that shows
crazy.
what their position in the car. Good, number 9, and also the
Yeah.
very acid washed '80s jeans he's wearing. Yeah.
Uh yeah, so they're bombarded by reporters continuing to try and interview both the abductors and the hostages, acting as if their lives are not in danger. They continue to interview Silky, again with Degowski like pointing the gun at her neck, like asking her how she's doing. It's like, go away. Um,
She's like, fine.
right? The reporters basically end up offering to get the group coffee if they want any food. Like they're literally asking them if they want anything, we'll go buy you stuff. They're sitting in
That
this
should
car.
be the police.
Right? Police nowhere to be seen. They never even show up to this scene at all. It's ridiculous. And eventually, some of the reporters end up offering to guide the abductors out of the crowd, or even offer to give them pictures of local police officers so that they're able to memorize them. So that if they do end up doing that exchange of hostages with the police officer they had talked about before, that they'd be able to recognize what the police officer looked at. So now the media wants to give them pictures of what the police officers look like trying to help
Okay.
them, which, yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, very weird. Silky Bischoff, gun pressed to her neck, answers a reporter's question with a weak smile. Degowski, clearly showing the effects of the beer and amphetamines that have kept him going for 2 days, boasts that he's already killed someone.
Ugh.
And Rosner, sitting in the front seat, repeats his mantra that they're not going to give themselves up, ever.
Yeah,
A
you're gonna shoot
reporter,
everybody there, buddy?
maybe. A reporter, Udo Robel, soon becomes entwined with the rest of the story, uh, and a whole lot of controversy. Rosner and Degowski have begun to unravel mentally, Robel says. He's a big reporter. Uh, he says, quote, I could see how dangerous the situation had become. It's clear from footage that Rosner had had enough. He suddenly gets out of the car and with both hands points his gun into the crowd. is screaming demands that the crowd move away and move the metal poles out of their way and let them leave, or he will shoot as many people as he can. Yeah, just start firing into the crowd. That gets people's attention. It's insane. The media were like interviewing people around the area, and one girl, you can see it in the trailer. She's just like, it's just like a movie. Like, it's like, and you're like, no, like, this is real life. And then when he pulls out his gun and gets out of the car and starts aiming it, like, directly at people, screaming that he's gonna shoot them, is the only time people actually, like, freak out and start getting away from the car. Yeah.
Shaking my head.
Yeah. So they do end up, reporters somehow figuring out how to remove the metal poles. Roble, the reporter, says, then he asked me what the quickest...
How did they get in? It's like, could they just get back out that way?
I think it kind of looks like how it was done. You wouldn't have been able to, like, turn the car around. They would have had to, like, reverse the whole way out or something. Which, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so Roble says, he then asked me what the quickest way to the Autobahn was. He said, we've got to get out of here now. My buddy is about to lose it completely. Roble began to describe the route, but Rosner was impatient. He said, quote, why don't you just get in and show us the way? Roble says, that was the moment when I had to make a decision. I had the feeling that I had been given responsibility for a situation which was becoming less and less controllable. But I also had that reporter's instinct that says, I want this story. This is mine. Roble then directs the abductors. He gets in the car. He directs the abductors to a nearby rest area on the Autobahn and ends up accompanying them for several kilometers in the car. I have a couple more quotes for him saying, I've thought about this for years. I've asked myself if I was the reporter from hell or simply a human being trying to de-escalate the situation and trying to help the two girls. And that's a difficult question to answer, but once I'd taken responsibility for the situation, I suppose I was both. I was simultaneously the guy who was trying to calm things down and the adrenaline-filled reporter on the story of a lifetime.
Yeah, you're totally trained to deal with this.
Right? Oh, it's so infuriating. He says while he was in the car, he tried to start a conversation with them, saying, quote, I assumed that the car was bugged, and so I was trying to get them to say something that might be of use to the police. Like, what? I don't really... They know they did it. Like, I don't know what you think is going to be of use. He says, but then Degowski pointed his gun at me and told me to shut my mouth, so I realized I'd just better say nothing. After 40 minutes in the car, Roble was released at a service station on the Autobahn, and he watched as the BMW drove off after dropping him off. A television crew arrived and immediately interviewed him. He says, quote, that's when I suddenly went weak in the knees. I realized what I'd done. I realized that I could have easily been dead, not knowing that he narrowly missed the conclusion of the hostage crisis just a few kilometers down the road, 54 hours after it had begun. Dun, dun, dun. So he, like, just missed it.
And he's... Okay. That's what he's really mad about.
I don't think so, because this would be shit to be in. Okay. So, the conclusion of this insanity. 54 hours. On the highway, just a few kilometers before the state border between North-Rhine Westphalia and Rhineland Palatinate? Palatinate?
German listeners, please help us. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just thinking I was like, oh man, this sounds like a fantasy land sometimes.
Yeah.
Westphalia. I was like, that sounds like right out of Critical Role, which is the D&D people channel we watch. And he just got his own lands and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, fancy. Europe's so cool. Their place names are
That's why we
awesome.
steal their ones. Their street
Wow.
names and city names sometimes, yeah.
And people just came from there, and so we were like, yeah, let's name it after back home.
Yeah.
New York, New Hampshire, New whatever. Yeah, we're so inventive.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're driving down. They're almost at the state border, and a police car comes out of nowhere and rams the getaway car. Like, I think in the side, basically like T-bones it or something.
Oh,
Um,
bold.
yeah. And this is at 1:40 p.m. on the 18th, right? Yes. August 18th, 1:40 p.m. It renders it immobile. They can't like drive it. And it triggers a huge
Wait,
gunfight.
didn't it have
Like,
the remote control thing in it still? That
yeah,
wasn't that the
but
same car?
yes.
Oh, so
Yeah.
confusing. It's like, why couldn't they just stop it rather than trying to
I
endanger the lives of
right?
the
I don't know
hostages?
where that remote was that they couldn't go get it or what.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're stopped on the highway and it triggers a huge gunfight between them and the police. Uh Both the hostages are like severely injured.
Oh
Inez
my
is
god.
able to exit the car, basically crawls out amidst the gunfire back and forth, and ends up being able to take cover in a ditch beside the road. Just like throws herself into
Holy
a ditch.
shit.
However, 18-year-old Silky Bischoff is fatally shot in the heart by a bullet from one of the abductors' gun. Don't know who.
No.
And she dies at the scene.
Silky.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's why I'm like, it's heartbreaking watching all of these interviewers and the media harass her and do nothing to help her, and then she dies.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so,
yeah.
I don't know. Just seems so disrespectful. Maybe that's not the right
Right?
word, but yeah, it
Like they're
just
interviewing
sucks.
her and she has a gun to her throat. Like, yeah,
It's
like
yeah,
even
it's
if,
almost like they're helping to degrade
yeah,
her and like
they're
just
getting
reduce
them
her to
coffee,
this.
they're giving them directions out. Can I give you pictures of what the police look like so you can't be tricked by them?
But you're
Like,
just a news
oh,
story to them. Like,
yeah, it's brutal.
ugh.
Um, so yeah, she dies at the scene. After that, the three abductors are finally arrested. Um, don't really know how that comes about, but there's pictures of like the huge map. It's basically the driving route that they ended up taking. It's kind of all over the place. They backtrack a lot. It's like all
Oh,
zigzaggy.
right. Yeah, I think I saw
Um,
that.
and then there's two pictures. One picture of like the shooting, kind of black and white. It's hard to see because there's like an overpass bridge, and the last picture is
Oh.
just the crowd of reporters that gather on that bridge to just like watch the scene unfold. It's hundreds of people. It's insane. They're just standing there watching.
Oh, and that's all. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But before that, there's one where he has put the Rosner guy put the gun in his own mouth in one picture
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's when they were stopped in the pedestrian thing before he threatened to shoot
Oh
everybody.
dear.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
that's a lot of
Udo
people.
Robel, yeah, there's so many people. It's insane. Like the whole bridge is covered, and it's like what, a couple lane, at least one lane in each direction. Like it's a big overpass. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Udo Robel, that uh guy that like had just gotten out of the car, the reporter,
Yeah.
he ended up hearing about the shooting from a local police station. Um, he was at a local police station, probably getting interviewed. And when he heard about it, and he said he was in shock, said I'd been sitting next to her only a few minutes earlier, talking about Silky. uh, said back in his office he had sat down to write his remarkable eyewitness story, um, saying, quote, "If there's one thing for which I do reproach myself, then it's this, that I tried to write the story of the last minutes of Silky Bischoff's life, that I drove this media voyeurism right to the very end. I'm still ashamed that I squeezed every last drop out of the story." Which, I
I
mean,
think you should be.
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of
Um,
disgusting. It's like you, I don't know. You all voluntarily got in that car, and
yeah.
like they didn't have options like voluntarily being part of it. You should have got in there and then offered to take her place. That would have been
Right?
the heroic
Yeah.
thing to do, instead of just fucking get your fucking story. Ugh.
Mm-hmm. On the flip side, there are people that kind of praise him because several years later, Roble says he was invited to take part in a public discussion at a local police academy. Also present was the judge who, we'll talk about, had sentenced Rosner and Degowski to life in prison. Roble said at
Good.
one point, yeah, at one point I said that reporters had crossed the line and that should never happen again. And then the judge turned to me and said, "It seems to me, Roble, that you prevented a bloodbath that day in Cologne. If you hadn't gotten into the car and the gangsters hadn't been able to drive away, the whole situation would have run out of control. And that for me," this part doesn't make sense. He says, "and that for me was like absolution." So he's like being forgiven by the judge because, I mean, yeah, he did threaten to shoot into the crowd if they couldn't get out of there, and he helped them get out of there. So you can
It was
sort of see that.
already out of control, though. I
Yeah,
just don't love that whole statement.
yeah.
It doesn't leaves a kind
Um,
of a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know. It's like,
I have some stuff about their trials or incarcerations just from Wikipedia, saying on March 22nd, 1991, Rosner and Degowski were pronounced guilty by the Regional Superior Court and received life sentences. Marion was sentenced to just 9 years, I suppose.
okay.
Yeah. In 2002, the higher court in Ham ascertained guilt of a very serious nature, and Degowski's sentence was increased to
No
24
shit.
years from life. I assume
Life,
because he shot Emmanuel.
such a
Um,
confusing sentence, because like here, you
yeah,
can't,
life
like in
is
Canada,
25, right?
life is, you can't get more than 25 for life. But also, I would expect you to like almost at least get 25 if it's called
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
It's very confusing.
I was confused by that too. Uh, in 2004, the same higher court refused an application for parole and a request by Rosner to shorten his sentence. The court also declared a state of preventative detention, and therefore Rosner is unlikely to be ever freed at the end of his sentence, due to preventative detention. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Called keeping him the fuck in there.
right? On the 20th of November 1988, the Minister of the Interior of Bremen, Bernd Meyer, ended up resigning over mistakes by the police in the case. Um,
Oh.
Still, yeah, it was like a huge thing. Uh, Continuing from Wikipedia, several years after the incident, there was a public discussion at a local police academy about the incident with the judge who had sentenced Rosner and Degowski. Uh, oh, yeah, this is just kind of the same thing. The judge praised Roble for having prevented a potential bloodbath in Cologne by getting in the car. This was not a view expressed in the official report into the incident by the there was like a inquiry that was made in the state of North-Rhine Westphalia, which commented negatively on journalist Roble's ethics.
What about the
Uh,
police? Who's asking them
right?
what they're gonna do differently next
Yeah,
time? Other than
I think
just
that's
someone
why the one guy
resigning.
probably resigned. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Uh,
okay, great, but still.
yeah, this quote's from Roble saying Gladbeck was a completely new situation for the police, and of course, also completely new situation for the media. Uh, Roble
Who
says he
handled
was
it so well? No.
yeah, great
Like
all
that.
around. Good job.
Ugh. Yeah,
Uh,
there was a lot of mob mentality going on there.
mm-hmm. Roble at the time was 39 years old and the deputy editor of a Cologne tabloid, The Express. He says if it happened today, every journalist would have to stop for a minute and say, hang on, there are boundaries here that mustn't be crossed. But back then, we were all in a kind of frenzy. We simply didn't stop to consider what we were doing. Which, very true. Like savage. When you watch the thing, they're
Okay.
literally screaming at each other, like, they're getting away, get out of my way, you almost hit me with your car. Like, and stuff, because they're just
Right.
trying to follow them in their stupid convoy.
It made me think of
Um,
how like 10 years later, well, almost 10 years later, Princess Diana, the crash
yeah.
after constantly being pursued by media and hounded, and
Yeah.
not that there wasn't other factors, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not good. It's like,
No.
dude.
I don't have too much left. Again from Wikipedia, in August 2018, it was announced by the regional court in Arnsberg that Dieter Degowski was to be released on conditional parole after serving 30 years in prison. He is
Okay.
released at this point. He has been given a new identity, and nobody knows where he is. It's like
Okay.
confidential. Yeah, he's been given a new identity,
He's pretty
and
older now, though. He'd have to be, because
yeah, they were born
88 is
in
34 years ago, and I know that.
they were born in the 50s, so yeah, they'd
Yeah,
be coming up
okay.
on like
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
like my
60 years
parents'
old.
age. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they'd be I mean, almost 70s. Okay.
And then Marion, she ended up serving just 6 years of her 9 year sentence, and she got out for good behavior. So Rosner's the only one that's
Okay.
still in prison.
Didn't sound like she
In
threatened as many people with a gun, to be
no,
fair.
and she is by far the most calm. Like even the last day when they're sitting in the pedestrian thing in the car, and like the media are talking to her, and they're like, are you upset that like this is the situation, are you upset that they shot and killed somebody? And she's like, at this point it just kind of is what it is. Like I'm just like
Oh.
fuck, yeah, just
Okay,
like
so
sitting
she's a
there.
cold-hearted bitch. I mean, I was gonna say she didn't
Yeah,
help
but
anybody. Like, I'm glad she
yeah,
did get some
and
time.
she knew what they were going to be doing. It's not like she got
Yeah.
forced into it. She got in the car and she knew what their plan was, as far as I can tell. So yeah.
Yeah, that's not great.
And she also had a gun. So like all three of them had a gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I
I
forgot to
didn't
mention
realize.
that she had a gun as well. Um, so in kind of like the aftermath, due to the extensive media reporting as the events were happening live, as well as the interviews like conducted, many journalists were criticized by the media friends or due to the media frenzy surrounding the crisis. At some points, they had asked the robbers to pose for photographs. Like, oh, I think I remember from the documentary, one of them was like, oh, the gun, like, press the gun harder to their neck or some shit. Like, just, or like,
Okay.
can we get one with you pointing the gun at them? Like, yeah, brutal.
That is so
Yeah.
gross.
Uh, they
Wow.
also helped them, I kind of mentioned, by getting them coffee as well as giving them directions. This kind of resulted
Right.
in the German press council banning any future interviews with hostage takers that occurred during a hostage situation. So you're no longer allowed to talk or interview them while the hostage situation is happening, which is
Two
good.
thumbs up, guys. Good
Yeah,
job. Hopefully, when this happens again, they won't be able to talk to the hostages.
right?
Heavy, heavy sarcasm.
Yeah. Or hostage takers. They aren't allowed to
Jeez.
talk to them either.
Oh
The
my
head
god.
of
How about don't let them
Germany's.
out on the road?
Right? Yeah.
Sorry.
Uh,
Hmm.
all I could think, I was thinking about this earlier today too, was because the police never showed up when they were stuck in Cologne, like in that pedestrian thing, why didn't you have like police show up? They're literally stuck there. They can't drive away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and then why
Yeah.
didn't,
Phone
or
calls could have been made.
yeah, or like, why, I'm sorry, but why didn't you have like snipers on them and just shoot them all three of them? They're sitting in a car.
Yeah, if the press can be smart enough to tail and follow
Yeah.
them, then the police should also have the skills because that is their job.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I feel like
ugh.
they could have done something. Um, the head
Yeah,
of
there'll
Germany's.
be
Oh,
a lot of similarities in like the start of
yeah,
my case, and then there's gonna be like some wild differences as well.
that's where you're
It'll
like,
be
yours is a
interesting.
bank robbery, and it was like, kind of. I mean, that's like the least of it, but yeah.
That was the intention, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, you'll forget all about that by the end. You won't
Yeah,
even remember this started in a bank. Uh,
right.
the head of Germany's largest journalist union, Michael Konkin, has referred to the incident as the darkest hour of German journalism since the end of World War II. Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
It's more of a blight on their reputation than
yeah.
a high spot, that's for sure, or a
hmm
highlight.
One of
Wow.
the things I ran across was saying that Silky's mother, Karen, spoke about her feelings earlier. It says earlier this year. I'm not sure what year this was. Um,
You said that
God
last
damn it.
on the Patreon. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It probably
I think
doesn't
it's
matter.
fairly soon after the crisis happened.
Yeah.
She was talking to Dare Stern um, about how she feels about all the videos and pictures of her daughter with guns pressed to her neck. Um, Specifically about the image with her sitting in the back of the car. Uh, and her response was that Silky was brave, very brave. I wouldn't have coped in the way she did. And at the beginning, I used to have nightmares because of that picture. She says, I can handle it today. It's still painful, but I don't have to look away now, which is nice. I can't
Ugh.
imagine like all the pictures of your daughter, like final moments is basically everything with like a gun pressed to her neck and nobody helping her, surrounded by dozens of people, like not
Yeah,
doing
and it
anything.
was like it had to be like shared with the world before her mom could
Yeah.
see it. I don't know. It's so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. I feel so bad for the victims that what the two hostages and
Yeah.
then what a police officer also died, you said too, right? In the
And
crash?
yeah, Silky's friend Inez was severely injured. She lived though. And
Oh.
then a police officer was killed in the vehicle accident, like during the convoy kind of thing. And then 15-year-old Emmanuel, he was shot by Dukowski at the
That makes
truck
me feel
stop.
her fucking friend must have felt so much survivor's
Right?
guilt,
Yeah.
especially that she waited for her
An hour
to
and she
take
was,
the
yeah,
bus
so
with
they could
her.
take the bus together.
Oh,
Um, yeah, families
it's
of
okay.
Emmanuel,
Forgives you, I'm sure. I would forgive you. It's
right?
not her fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, the families of Emmanuel and Silky ended up filing charges of criminal negligence against the police. They
Okay,
kind of
good.
filed different things, but in general, the charge was that of negligently causing
Rolls
death
off the tongue.
due to the failure to give assistance. That's what their charge was, the failure to give assistance, which is a big thing.
Right. Okay.
In this
That's
case, like how
sounds
many
like yeah.
times?
That's what
were
it
they at a
was.
stop and nobody did anything to give assistance to them.
Yeah.
And also, Silky or Emmanuel's parents say that police provoked the abductors by detaining Marion at the rest stop, which prompted the killing of Emmanuel when she wasn't given back
Yeah.
in time.
They hadn't killed anyone yet
Yeah.
deliberately before that.
Mm-hmm. They
Dang.
also said that police missed several opportunities to end the hostage drama, but instead continued to follow and just keep tabs on them. Um, Such
Yeah,
as
like
like using
give in
that
to their
remote.
demands and then just kind of
Yeah,
let them go. And you're like, oh, okay, that'll surely end it. Did you
yeah.
just think they would let the hostages off somewhere and that you would like eventually figure out that, oh, you guys made it home safe? Oh, good to know. Okay, we're just over here like eating our chips and drinking our beer. Like it
Yeah.
just makes them look really, really bad.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so the last thing I have is just probably two of the more, other than like podcasts that have previously covered this, it's like two of the more, I guess, like documentary style things that have been done. There's a two-part like dramatization of the events that is titled 54 Hours. Um,
Oh.
that was broadcast by ARD in March of 2018. I didn't watch this, but it's hard to tell because a lot of the pictures online, when you look it up, a lot of them are from that dramatization now, and it's really hard to tell them apart because they got
Oh.
fairly good actors. So I hope all the
Damn.
pictures I used are from the real thing. There's one of them I'm iffy on, but I couldn't find a
The
better
black and white
picture to
ones
replace it.
probably are real. They
I
for
know,
sure.
yeah, a bunch of the raw footage though is in color in the
Oh
Netflix
yeah.
one, so
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure that there's the
Um,
color stuff is too. I'm just like, oh, for
yeah,
sure the black and white stuff is
yeah.
gonna be.
And then I kind of mentioned the documentary. I had heard about this before, was the Gladbeck, the Hostage Crisis, released by Netflix.
Yeah.
That it's an hour and a half, just the one like movie basically, without any commentary, and just does just the raw footage of all the reporters like start to finish. It just kind of was like edited together onto like a continual thing for to start to finish of like the timeline. Um yeah, it's wild to watch. Um
The pictures are
yeah.
even just crazy to look at. You're
Yeah.
just like it could look like a movie. You're like, "Oh, look at their hair. Like it
Yeah.
looks like right out of Grease or something." And then you're just like,
Yeah, it's wild.
nope, they're afraid for their lives. Like, yeah, it's so crazy when
Yeah.
pictures are captured of these types of situations. And there's, I will probably have
So
some.
much.
There was at least a few pictures in my case too, because they were. It was
Yeah.
also, being kind of broadcast, not to this extent, but
Yeah.
there's pictures. Yeah, yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. The one of the raw footage though, it says it has captions, it doesn't. It's not translated, so all the audio's in German. So if you don't speak German, I'm sorry. But
Uh,
yeah. But it's just kind
Achtung,
of interesting. It's like
nine.
watching them talk and you can like see sometimes everybody's relaxed and then sometimes everybody's like on edge and
Yeah.
but it's
The
crazy every time
highs
like
and
they show like
lows.
the car or something and it's like super closed in and stuff and then they'll kind of like zoom pan out and it's just like people and people and people and people and they're like and it's yeah just every time they're just surrounded by like a mob like
Like when you see those real life pictures of like famous areas, like the pyramids or
yeah
the Little Mermaid
yeah
statue in like Copenhagen, and you're like, or the Mona Lisa, and then they like pan out, and there's like, it's always full of a million people around it. So it's like
yeah
going to actually see it in real life isn't as all it's cracked up to be. Yeah.
but people did not take even after Emmanuel's like death they didn't I feel like the media didn't take it seriously as like a threatening and dangerous situation, really.
Yeah, like you're
Like,
making a literal snuff film. Like you're gonna capture these
yeah,
people possibly dying. Now there's already been a
yeah,
victim. Crazy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
Oh, well, as Claire from Outlander would say, Jesus H. Roosevelt Christ.
When I logged
And I don't
into
know what
Netflix
else to
earlier,
say.
it started playing because it was telling me there was going to be a new episode
Yes, a new
getting added to
season's
Netflix,
dropping
and
on
it started
Netflix.
like auto playing the thing, and I'm like, I'm not caught up yet. This is fun.
Oh no!
But I was like, whatever.
It's like I was watching the YouTubers do other YouTubers play D&D, and I'm reading the comments, and
Mm,
some people hadn't
yeah.
watched the whole video yet, and they're like, why am I in the comments reading, oh, this was so great when Pete died, and at least for his turn we got to see him go to the realm of Nod and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, don't ever
Right?
read the comments when you just start the video.
I always do. I'm terrible. I'll be like 2 minutes into the video, I'll pause something and start reading comments, and then just completely spoil myself. And then I was like, oh well.
Oh well.
I do that. I did that with like every Bailey Sarian video.
Oh no.
Like,
It's
uh,
hard. Yeah, even with YouTube, it's like I gotta be doing something else, maybe like a podcast, or like when I listen to a
yeah,
podcast, I mean, where I'm like, otherwise, yeah, I'm just gonna scroll down, because
yeah.
especially if I'm listening to it on my phone, and then I'm like, I want to do stuff on my phone, but all there is to read comments.
Don't let me be alone with any thoughts.
it's
I can't be alone
it's
with
a
my
thing.
thoughts.
This is a problem. I am not one that people are like, and then try meditation, and I'm like, but how? That's my, like, sounds like my worst nightmare. I'm terrible at just being quiet.
Well,
Oh yeah, and then
you read a lot, so that can be your meditation.
yes, it can
It's very
happen. Sometimes,
relaxing. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I just listen to music. It happens occasionally.
Yeah.
Um, but oh yeah, speaking of like Netflix documentaries, if you guys have one that you have watched that you like or want to watch or is crazy, we were thinking about incorporating that into some of our Patreon bonus episodes.
Yes.
Because I've listened to some different ones where people do it for Patreon, and then they do like a really crazy true crime documentary, and they it's not really a watch along, but like a recap and discussion type of
Yeah.
situation. And then it's made me want to watch a lot of different documentaries, because I'm like, what the hell is happening? Or this one sounds crazy. Or yeah,
Yeah.
so send us some suggestions if you have any. Some good Netflix nasty documentaries.
There's so many of them. It's like
There really
insane.
is. We can't watch them all. You guys must have watched some.
Yeah. I'm
um,
sure everybody's watched a couple. If you're
oh
listening
yeah,
to us right now, yeah.
I feel like
Good
we've
true
seen a
crime.
lot of the big ones. I've seen Don't Fuck with Cats, The Staircase, you know, uh, Abducted in Plain Sight. One I don't know
Yeah.
much about that people I've seen people cover it is the Lacey and Scott Peterson one. I haven't really watched anything on that one, but it's
What's
pretty
that one?
big. I don't think the Lacey Peterson is the wife, maybe, slash victim. It's actually pretty big in true crime, but I don't actually really know much about it.
Oh, the
As
names
I'm
don't sound familiar, but
really, I literally heard a podcast say the other day, like, in true crime circles, they say never trust a Peterson, and I was like, they do.
oh, damn
Well,
it.
because Staircase is Michael Peterson. I'm just glad my last name is
Oh,
just Peters. At least it's not.
yeah.
They're like, never trust a Peterson. I'm like, ah. It's almost a
Yeah,
combination of our last names. Anyway.
right? There's
Yeah.
I don't think there's too many Netflix ones left that are out that I haven't watched. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is cool.
Watched
I'm sure you
almost
still
all of
have
them.
opinions on all the ones you have watched.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, we could do a rewatch situation.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this
Yeah.
episode. And you'll have to stick around. Try and guess what Alana's gonna cover next week.
It's pretty famous.
Get to do
But
her takeover.
you might not know a lot about it. I didn't.
I know I don't. She already told me what she's doing, and I'm very excited. I can't wait.
Well, great. Yeah, so we'll do that one next week, and then back to a paranormal episode after that.
Yes.
So.
Stick around.
Yeah. We have to be cryptic.
Yeah.
It's kind of in our DNA.
It's in our name. We have to be castles and cryptids. I'll be a castle. You can be a cryptid.
I thought about doing a commentator voice, or what some people will call like the NPR voice. Start the episode. Welcome to Castles and Cryptids. You are listening to the podcast where the castles are cryptid and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. Just like a golf commentator type of voice.
I don't think I can do that.
I couldn't put it. I couldn't do it for long. Well, we thank you for listening to our under 2-hour episode. Look at us go.
Only because we split it, otherwise it'd probably be like 3 hours.
That's right.
And
that's not always easy to listen to, so.
Yeah, or edit, or anything.
No, my God.
Yeah.
Like, the only
Give us a break.
Longer episodes is when I watch, like, Critical Role, because they'll play D&D for, like, 5 hours. And then with me and my ADD, I'm like, I can listen to like half of you, but then I am tuning out and I can't pay attention for that long. So I get it. Yeah.
I could not.
I don't think we need ours to be any longer. It's fine.
I always find it funny. People are like, I can't. Oh, it'll be like, what? This movie is 2 hours long. I can't pay attention for that long. And then it'll be like, proceeds to watch 3 hours of television episodes.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know where it looks the most daunting is I'll go on good pods, good pods, and it puts your episodes into minutes. So it's like a running time for a movie. It'll be like, this episode is 1 hour, 121 minutes or something. And you're like, oh my God, I don't like to see it like that. It seems so long. But that's it's like 2 hours. Yeah, it's really weird. Our minds are really fucked up that way.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then we just made it 3 more minutes talking about episode length.
Oh well, bye.
All right, keep it cryptic. Please enjoy a promo from Beauty Unlocked, the podcast, a member of our lovely pod squad. Enjoy.
Join me on a trip back to the 17th century. I'll be sharing tales of courtly intrigue, jealousy, and murder. It might seem like our lives are scandalous and sordid, but you're in for a treat. Are you clutching your pearls yet? From promiscuous kings to jealous and greedy courtiers, and many vying for the king's affection and favor. This February, on Beauty Unlocked the podcast, we're going in deep and looking at some of the scandals that rocked the English and French courts. Oh my. Or as the French say, mon Dieu. I'm calling this one Poisonous Affairs. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and check us out on YouTube. That's Beauty Unlocked the podcast.
puppy, there's a puppy, there's a puppy. Outside my door.
I know, I'm like,
He's waiting for me.
Gordo's being good and sleeping.
Oh, he's on his perch again.
Yeah.
Oh, twitched his tail. He knows we're talking about
Whoosh. Yeah, look at the flashy little tail.
him. Flick. Wow, yeah, he's totally chill. It's like,
Yeah.
it's been a nice development.
Right? Alright.
It's okay. He's funny either way. He gives me lots of bloopers.
Wow. Negligently. Never tried to say that out loud. Negligently causing death due
Rolls
to...
off the tongue.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.